Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to all his amazing, beautiful, creative friends. Today, I'm in the little town of Beacon, New York in the Hudson Valley, and I got to visit my good old artist friend, Ron English, who's a really legendary pop surrealist painter, street artist, vinyl toy creator, and so much more. A very interesting person with tons of cool things to say about his art career and so much more. So enjoy. Blessings.
While the world is burning, got to make amends. Walk on the sunny side with a positive lens. Talks about passion between the women and the men. Chris Dyer and his creative friends. Darling, ooh, ooh, ooh,
Once upon a time, it happened that an artist died and had been struggling to try to get attention his whole life, and even his brother was an art dealer, and then the whole process began after he was dead, and then people, that was just such a powerful story that it became the story, but it's not the story, it's the exception to the story, you know?
Right. So what about Van Gogh? Or
That's who I was talking about. That's the one big story.
right. That is the story.
And the real story about Van Gogh and the real genius in that story is Theo's wife.
Okay.
Think about it.
Theo's wife?
Yeah,
That's his brother.
his brother's wife. Yeah, she was the real authentic genius in the story.
Why?
All right. Well, who was Vincent? He
A
was
crazy dude that was painting awesome, beautiful things in the prairies
but
of
he was crazy.
Holland.
He was
That's
crazy.
the story, or maybe oversensitive.
No, he was crazy. People have been interviewed that knew him and go, yeah, he didn't brush his teeth. They were rotten. He yelled at you. He was mentally disturbed, and not a lot of fun to be around for the most part. And also resented by the other artists because his brother supported him, and their brothers didn't support them. You know.
Yeah. So the wife of his brother is the one that saved the day on that one.
Oh, well, here's what happened. His brother was an art dealer, and he worked for an art dealer, and he was hustling Impressionism out of the back room, which was kind of a new thing, and most of the rich people didn't really get what that was. I mean, they weren't ready for that, much less whatever the hell Vincent thought he was doing. I mean, even the Impressionists thought he's trying to do Impressionism with a butter knife. They thought he was nuts. So he was like a bad version of something that they hadn't even accepted yet. So like, what are the odds of that working? But his brother believed in him, and he tried really hard to sell his art with no luck. So instead, he just took money and gave it to his brother to support him. And the wife seemed to be, tolerant of that, because like you marry a guy and it's like, now you got a kid, and he keeps sending money to his brother, but don't we need the money for the kid? But she was only married to him for a couple of years. And then he got syphilis, and then he died 8 months after Vincent died.
Wow.
And she's left with nothing. She's left with nothing except these weird, messed up paintings by the crazy brother. And, so she's a woman, which also means she doesn't really have the capacity to make a living. So now here's the interesting thing is her husband was in the art world. He could not figure it out. He lived his whole life in the art world, working for a famous art dealer. He couldn't figure it out. She was only around the art world for a little more than 2 years. And didn't have full exposure because she didn't go to work with him. And she figured out what the main art dealer couldn't figure out. She figured out what Theo couldn't figure out. She figured out how to do it. And she took, like these paintings, nobody wanted them. One guy, to be nice, had a couple hotels. He says, I'm friends of the family. I'll buy them off of you for X amount of money. Here's cash on the barrelhead. Then I'll just put them in the hotels, and it'll help you out a little. And you know what? She was desperate for money. She had a baby. She had no way to make money. She said, no. What? No. And then she took what tiny money she had and went and bought back the couple paintings that he had sold.
Weird.
Now, he didn't sell them for cash. He sold them because he owed rent. And he said, I'll give you a painting. And they're like, I don't really want a painting, but I'll take something. Something's better than nothing. And, you know, so she recovered the paintings that he had sold.
Okay.
Now she has no money, and she has this worthless art. So why is she turning down the one opportunity to sell them and go buy more?
Maybe she was insane too.
No, she was super fucking smart.
Okay.
She understood the art world. And she took this artist that nobody wanted or understood and turned him into the biggest artist of his generation.
When did
She knew how to do it. There's the story, right?
Well, when did it happen that all of a sudden everyone's like, what? We can't get this guy's Vincent van Gogh's paintings? We all want them now. Did that happen at one point?
Yeah, it took a few years, but she worked it exactly the way she was supposed to. She put them all in the right places, dealt with all the right people. She knew how to play the game.
Nice. Well, I guess
she was super smart. No, but I mean, I know a million artists. I only know a couple of people that know how to play the game. How many people, like Gagosian knows how to play the game? Most people have no idea how to play the game.
Yeah, me neither. I actually buy my paintings back just because I miss them, and I think I'd rather have them and show them to my friends than some stranger that bought them. I didn't do it as a strategy to make them go up in price, but I guess sounds like a good strategy, yeah?
I don't know.
Have you ever done it?
My wife buys stuff back. If somebody ever wants to buy something back, she buys it back.
Yeah, if somebody offers it.
Or somebody goes, hey, I bought this painting and now I'm divorcing my wife and I don't know. It's like, and I just don't think I could afford to have it anymore.
Right.
And so she'll usually just buy it back.
At the same price, or do they make some profit? Yeah.
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 Yeah, she'll buy anything back at the same price.
Nice. So we're rolling.
Because a lot
right?
of people don't pay attention to your market, so they don't realize it's worth more, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I guess we're already rolling. We're already
Yeah.
doing the show. That's awesome. Thank you for starting the show with a beautiful story about Van Gogh. And you're telling me that it's a myth that an artist will blow up if they die. They only blow up once they die if they actually blew up enough when they're alive.
For the most part, yeah. There is ways that you can blow an artist up after they're dead. Like some galleries on 57th Street kind of deal with estates. So this is kind of a weird story, and it's kind of a bit of a sad story, but I lived on 3rd and D, right, in New York City, and there was a woman that had been a painter in the 50s, and her name was Terry Izod, and she made Keith Haring's. Now, she can't make Keith Haring's, not even born yet, but she made, when everything was about abstraction, she made these paintings of these bubble-headed people with bubble hands, outlined in different colors, flat colors on the inside, gritting together in different patterns. Completely what you're not supposed to be doing in the 50s. And also, did I mention she's a woman, and they were going to only let one woman be an artist during the whole 50s or whatever. so I mean, everything was stacked against her. And so she gave up on art, but she completed a lot of major works before she did. And one day, now my block was bad. It was like a guy sat on a porch with an Uzi. And
For real?
For real. Yeah, to control the drug market, because it was the last place after Operation Pressure Point, they allowed this one block to be a free drug market. So like an idiot, I went to move there. But she was also trapped there. Like they'd killed her husband and stuff, and she was trapped there. And one of her kids was kind of messed up, and the other one was about to go to high school. He's a real bright kid, and she says, I just can't let him walk to school. He can't go outside in this neighborhood. And so I'm going to move uptown to apartments and let the kid go to a decent high school. And at that point, I lived in the basement. And she was, would you like to take over the whole building, get all your friends to move in? So anyway, so we ended up taking over the whole building with all of our friends, and we had a big crazy commune there.
This is what, the 80s?
80s, yeah, yeah. But one day, me and my girlfriend were reading the paper, and she goes, oh crap, you know, Perry died. And so they came in and they took a couple of her paintings, you know, the family did, like, we'll just take a couple examples, and they took the rest and threw them in the dumpster. Because they're big paintings, what are you going to do with them, right? And so I took them all back, and then I unstretched them all and rolled them into one big bundle, and then we moved down to Chambers Street, because, you know, once she died, they sold the building, and we had to leave.
Okay.
And I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I'm just going to hold on to them. You can't just throw them in the dumpster. And I held on to them until like the mid-90s, and then the complete floor of our building burned down, and so they all burned up in the fire, so they never made it.
Oh, no.
But now, suddenly the world is going, oh, like, who are the women, and how come we never heard about the women? And
right, now people
well, for the
want
most part,
women.
there weren't that many because they weren't allowed to be artists. So there's not big cachets of feminine art because they weren't allowed to make the art. And you're not going to just keep making art if nobody wants it your whole life, right?
Right.
But she would have been one of the people that one of those galleries that pump up old careers. You know, because
Was
then
it nice art?
they could have bought the whole inventory, and then they could have promoted her and got her a show at the Brooklyn Museum or something,
Right.
and she would have been huge.
You would have made more money from her art than
Well,
your own.
I wouldn't have made money off her art. I mean, I just can't do that. It's like I would have called her son and said, look, it's like, you know, I saved her art. I didn't tell you that, but I saved her art, and now she's big, and this is your estate. I wouldn't take it.
No.
You know,
Right.
no. But
Too bad it burnt out.
yeah, that breaks my heart because it's like now, you know.
Was it good art?
Yeah, it was just Keith Haring. Is Keith Haring good art? I don't know. I loved Keith Haring. But
It's
it was,
style.
yeah, it was,
The vibe.
but it was also super interesting that she was brave enough to do that in the face of like everything that was going on. Like that nobody was going to accept figurative art in that period. I don't know. It was just interesting that she did. That's what she did. You know. And it
So-
would have been a lot more interesting if our place didn't burn down in the painting. If I could have got them to somebody that they could have pumped her up into something. So
Right.
so sometimes people do get rediscovered after their death. So it's not.
Do you think you'll become more famous and valued once you die because you've already reached a level of success in your life? Does it matter to you? Or
Yeah,
what-
of course it matters to me. But I'm one of the few artists that has not only an estate, I also have a ton of IPs.
What does that mean?
Intellectual property. So I have characters, I have things that, so we like, you came to my house earlier, they're running a licensing company there. So it doesn't have that much to do with me. It's kind of harder with me because I keep making more and more stuff. And it's easier to run an estate when the artist quits making stuff and then you can inventory what's really there. And then it's easier to put it on clothes because every clothing company has their own designers. So they want to take your iconic images and they want to do their own thing with them. And, you know, so in a way it's easier after you die. And yeah.
Okay. So by estate,
But,
you
you know-
mean, are you cashing a collection of your own art that you don't sell to the public so that you leave kind of like a museum exhibition's worth of your work for the people?
Yeah, they always say save something from every show, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, we have inventory, but also we have IP. So, but you know, like very much like Keith Haring, his income doubled every year after his death.
Wow.
But he had to be famous before he died. He couldn't just have been obscure.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
you're obscure and you die and all of a sudden like, hey, he's famous because he's dead.
Yeah, or they look and see something in the work because the you know, I don't know.
They did something special and it
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get recognized at the time.
But a lot of money has to go into, like even with my landlord, they would probably have to spend a lot of money and put a coffee table book out about her and have some very famous people write about how influential she was. And you know, she was in shows in the 50s, and that's also important. You have to peg that you were really there and you were part of it. Like Gracie Hartigan, I guess, or like some of the female abstract painters made it big in the 70s because all the Pollocks were gone. But the movement was still super important and people really into it. And also, you know, people are becoming more self-conscious about it just being white men from Harvard. So,
Well-
so those women got their shot at that point, you know. But they had to be legit because literally I live next door to Jackson Pollock, or I'm in
Really?
the same studio with them, or you know what I mean? That they were really there, they were showing, they were part of the scene. They, you know, we just didn't, you know, pull them out of some garage in the Midwest or something. They were for real involved in the dialogue at the time.
Right. All right. So
But
you're in,
I would recommend not dying.
well, I think it's inevitable. I want to die with
but
grace.
I've known a lot of my friends have committed suicide over the years, and
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they did it, but I think they thought that they're going to finally notice me now.
Do you fear death, or do you
Oh
welcome it?
yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
You know.
I mean, I fear getting a parking ticket too. So why? I don't know. Just doesn't seem fun. Yeah.
So you were recently at Alex Gray's museum. He introduced us 10 years ago, took me to your house. It was so nice. We shared some beers, showed us your studio, which looks like a museum of toy and magic and art. And now this weekend, Alex finally opened up his museum of visionary art. What did you, I want to know a couple things and I'll let you roll with it. How do you meet Alex? Do you like his work? And do you think that with this thing he's created that he will be remembered past his life and maybe his death will maybe even blow him up even more in this whole topic of life and death and leaving an estate behind?
Well, I think that him and Allison are two of the most self-actualized artists that have ever existed. They're two of the most important artists that have ever existed. I think they have their own complete, unique vision. They're not really derivative of anything else. They stand alone. Being in their space and the kind of people they attract and the talent they attract and just being in the presence of their art it's like they've been able to take their personalities and imbue them in the art. And the art is just like being in a room with them. It's amazing. And that's the greatest accomplishment an artist can make is you can take your soul and dispense it into all this art that you're still there with them, you know.
Totally.
But I'm not that, I don't have this level of being impressed with many artists, but him and Allison are definitely, they're our heroes, yeah.
Where did you meet Allison and Alex?
The first time we really met them is right after they had the automobile wreck and they both broke their backs. And I can't remember, but somebody brought us to go meet them, and they were laying in their separate beds. They were laying in two beds.
That was
and holding court.
2010, because I remember they went to Hawaii at a show we did together, and they came with the turtle thing. Yeah. And, well, you guys are neighbors from similar towns, so they had already moved to this area.
Yeah, and like with you, we do a lot of the same stuff, so I see them out, you know, doing book signings, or, you know, we all run the same circuit to a large extent, right?
Yeah, to some degree. Well, you're like, I guess, Pop Surrealism, which is a branch of psychedelic art in general, and visionary art's a branch of psychedelic art. Would you consider your work psychedelic or influenced by drugs or medicines, whatever you want to call it?
Well, the world seems to think that.
Yeah, well, anyone who's freaky and weird is like, oh, they must be on drugs.
I guess so, yeah.
But what's your point of view about it?
I've taken acid, but maybe like a couple times in the 70s. You know, I had the trip that everybody talks about where you see music, and I thought I died. You know, I mean, I physically could see my body disappearing, and then I became an orb in space, and I could feel my friend, and I could think, wow, you're an orb in space too, and I could feel him going away, but he wasn't. He was just now he was just pure energy, and then the next day we went to visit my friend in the insane asylum, and I was thinking, oh fuck, I'm still high. I hope they don't keep us here, you know. But then I just never did it again after that. I did a couple times before that, but when I got the peak experience, I just thought, you know, I don't know. I got it.
Does it still influence your work today?
Well, it's kind of like you only want to see God once.
You only want to see God once?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Well, yes, later. But I mean, it's like it's an overwhelming experience.
Because it's scary as fuck.
To me, it's not like an everyday kind of something I would want to repeat.
No, it's a sacred experience that can humble you, and perhaps once is enough. And you don't want to break your hardware by. That
is true too. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people not come back. You know, so.
Yeah, me too. And I myself sometimes I felt like I was not going to come back normal, for good and for bad. Yeah. How is that whole world of pop surrealism? Because it's still. Is it popular? Is there a big following? Is it?
Do you know?
Well, I follow Juxtaposed magazines.
Okay, but I don't think they do pop surrealism anymore, do they? Or?
Well, they started right that way.
They ran it, and then they moved to street art, and now they do blue chip art, or I don't know.
Yeah, keeps them moving, and
different
movements
people
of art
kind of
have different
run the
popularities.
show. Yeah, but I don't know. I was a part of that. I was maybe the only New York artist that was part of that. It was mostly an LA movement. For me, I thought this is the last authentic art movement in the tradition of an art movement that was created by artists, and artists that had a dialogue with each other. So, because, surrealism, all those guys knew each other, and they drank coffee together, or absinthe, or whatever but they hung out, and they all knew what they were challenged, and were having a visual and an intellectual dialogue with each other. And that's what all the pop surrealists were doing. And that was the last artist-created art movement. And you might argue that maybe street art is an art movement, but street art's more like a way to disseminate your art. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of movements together. I mean, pop surrealism, I'm a pop surrealist street artist in a way.
Right.
But the practice of street art is more the way of disseminating your work to the public, I think.
Right, it's just more like location over a style, because there's a million styles.
Like I like to say, if Jackson Pollock flung his art onto a wall, he'd be a street artist.
Right.
And then he would be coupled with Banksy, who does stencils, and who would be coupled with, you know, me who does pop surrealism.
So it's not a particular aesthetic, it's once again just the location.
Yeah, or just a way to, you know, a direct access to the public, I think. And it also, some of us actually deal with the space and address things that are going on, or even the shadows. Like I'll trace the shadows of a tree as it goes down during the day, or, you know, and some people just kind of impose their art onto a wall. But yeah, a lot of different approaches. So it's really hard to call it a movement.
Right. Is it still vibrant, or has it moved on and you don't even care about labels, you're just doing your thing because you got your following of your own? Or is there still like a community that gathers around it?
Oh, yeah. I think you know, when you do street art, it's like being a musician. You kind of end up doing it with other people. So you roll around the country, and that maybe it wasn't a tribe, but it was definitely, or maybe it was a tribe, but maybe less than a movement, more of a tribe, because you would see the same people, and at all these big festivals, they would always invite the same people. I'd see that like their list. They would have their A-list.
So this is street art, right?
Yeah. So, but that was, you were part of a tribe, and you always hung around with the same people, but you guys didn't seek each other out. Promoters put the things together, and then there would be Shepherd, or, you know, it would always be the same people at all the different events for the most part.
More or less.
So that was your gang, but you didn't put together your own gang. Some promoters, because they always had a list of who they wanted.
Right.
You know, they usually had two lists, like 10 people that we desperately want, and then 10 people like we can't get them.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Did you get along with most of those artists, or was it so diverse?
Oh, I got along with everybody. Yeah. I think.
You really get along with everybody? I don't get along with everybody, you know. And sometimes people don't.
Well, I bet it's kind of brutal doing street art, and I don't know. I think it's people work really, really hard, and then they party together, and then everybody cries and hugs each other and leaves, and then you go to the next thing, you know.
Well, that's the cool thing about street art, because you're all out there in the sun grinding your mural, and at the end of the day, you're just kind of like blue collar workers, like sitting down, drinking a beer, being like, yeah, we put in our hours, so there's like a nice vibe together, and then you just meet around the world.
Yeah, it's weird because like I remember one guy like ran my lift in Spain, and he didn't speak any English, and I don't speak any Spanish, and so, you know, he just helped me like for a week, and then at the end we had this huge party, and he was literally crying and hugging me, and it's like he couldn't believe we were going to leave, and I'm like, it's so weird. It's like a lot of people get super emotional and cry at the end. It's like so intense.
Well, you're a nice guy.
Like, but it's also we couldn't even talk to each other. But we were together, and this thing, you know, appeared on this wall, and then he actually helped us break into a couple of buildings, you know, like abandoned buildings, like driving the lift over there, and so we could climb in the windows.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What a nice
it's a
vibe.
it's a very wild thing. Very different.
So, you know, you do so many kinds of art. I want to ask you about painting. I want to ask you about toys. I want to ask street art. But since we're talking about street art, tell me a little bit about muralism. Is like spray painting like something like newer in the longer journey of your art career?
I spray painted in the 70s, but what changed, I think, is, well, first, you know, with the advent of the internet, everybody started knowing about each other. Where, like, I was in Dallas spray painting, or in Illinois, but I didn't know any other artist, and, you know, a lot of people weren't really doing anything back then, so it was kind of like shooting basketball by yourself. Like, the second somebody else comes, you get twice as good because you're kind of competing a little, or you're more aware of different stuff.
Right, and you weren't really necessarily doing graffiti.
Yeah, I was, I don't know what I thought I was doing, but I would do, I guess it was kind of, well, I guess the first art I knew about was earthworks and things that people were doing in the environment. So I probably thought that's what I was doing, except I was doing, you know, like spiral jetty, but I was doing it in an alley in Dallas or something. And I didn't have any concept of what an audience, or I knew that people saw it, but I didn't stay around to see what they made of it, which was kind of weird. So I did things like, I went to all the cliffs, like in Oak Cliff and in Austin, and I did fake dinosaur skeletons in the cliffs. And I also would go...
By carving the cliff?
And I also walk down creeks, and then I would put weird, strange... well, it was kind of interesting because I was in junior college then, and we had all the clay we could use, which is kind of weird for a junior college. And so, like, I would make skeletons, fire them, and then I would go put them in creek beds and leave them. So somebody hiking would stumble upon it, you know?
Whoa.
But I would never know who that person was. And then I would make fake products and I would go put them in all the stores. But I never saw somebody encounter them in a store because I would just leave it and then go on my way.
So it's kind of like a performance art piece that you don't know the conclusion. It's up to the imagination to imagine that.
Right, and also you don't. I think it's like almost the original impetus to make art was not to make money.
Right.
I mean,
which
the
is
idea
a true intention with art, right?
The idea of commerce came way later. So I was making art for the same reason cave people made art, you know.
Right, for self-expression.
Yeah, or just you do it because you have to, or it's just
It's part of human nature.
Yeah.
So where did culture jamming, billboard taking over start happening, and your expression of interacting with your environment, where that may be?
Well, I did a lot of billboards in Texas, and which caught the attention of a lot of other painters, and it was kind of interesting because they asked me if they could do billboards too, and I'm like, I just steal the billboards. I don't think that you need my permission.
These are dead billboards or already existing ones?
Repainted billboards around Texas, and but then a lot of the other young painters started doing it too. So we had kind of almost like a club, and we would go to different towns and paint all the billboards and have like an event. I mean, we would even get kegs of beer and have a party underneath. We were a little crazy like that, but yeah, because we weren't gonna. We went to some galleries and said, "Would you show our work?" And they said no. They said, "But come back when you're 30." Now remember, this is before Keith Haring, right?
This is the 70s?
Yeah, late 70s. So that was the first time that there was like a 19-year-old art star, because up to then, I think de Kooning had his first show when he was 40. So it's sort of expected that maybe you might start showing by the time you're 30. Meanwhile, you've got 15 years or 12 years of intense artistic energy and imagination and nothing to do with it, you know. So that's why I probably just dumped it onto the street. Now remember, they hadn't happened yet. That was a new phenomenon.
That was 80s, right?
That was a new phenomena of kid artists making it big.
Okay.
Because up to that point, that paradigm did not exist. So nobody thought, fuck, I could be famous by the time I'm 19 and making giant paintings, and that wasn't a thing yet.
Right.
So
you had to kind of like pay your dues and grow into.
Or you didn't even think about it. You just wanted to make art, and it didn't seem like that. Being in a gallery or making a living of it didn't seem like a possibility.
Such different times to these times where the kids come out of the womb and they already want to be famous for it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the first person that I ever met that actually seemed to have a plan that came from like the street art world or whatever, it was Cause. And I met him, and I think he's either still in high school or he might have been in college. But yeah, he had like a plan, and he was playing this like it was a career. And I think as much as we thought about it, and we didn't think that much about it, we just thought it was a lifestyle. And we thought we had made a choice, and we had committed ourselves to a life of poverty and fun. And we were pleasantly surprised when it turned into like a big enterprise.
How many times have you been to jail for illegally taking over billboards?
One time for billboards, one time for posters. I've been in jail I think 32 times I've been in jail.
32?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And they didn't dissuade you from wanting to keep on doing it? Was it a fun experience?
I'm quite possibly one of the luckiest people that ever lived, because some of the stuff that happened to me, I shouldn't have lived through. And also in Texas is a very, very strict state. So I ended up with 2 second-degree felonies in Texas, and you're allowed to plea bargain down like 1 felony. So you still have to absorb a 3rd-degree felony. And if you get 3 felonies in Texas, you have to go do life in prison.
Whoa.
No parole. Yeah. So, but yeah, with the billboards, I persuaded the billboard company to drop the charges, and it was not easy because they were super pissed because they said I did over $1 million worth of damage because I'd been hitting them for a long time, and they finally caught me.
How many you've done? Like 1,000, right?
At one point, I remember the first time I ever counted is I worked at a photo lab, so I'd take pictures of them all. We were developing the photos, and the guy I worked with goes, "How many of these have you done?" I said, "Oh, probably about 30." And he goes, "Let's count." And it's like, "No, you did about 200." It's like,
wow.
Damn.
And these are all hand-painted original paintings that you stick in the streets.
Yeah, at some point I crossed 1,000 because I remember bragging to some journalist that, oh yeah, I did 1,000. And he goes, "Okay, you have to show me pictures of 1,000 because I'm not just going to write you did 1,000.
Yeah.
And I thinking I probably didn't really do 1,000. It's probably exaggerating, but I found like pictures and he went through them all and he counted over 1,000 and he goes, "Yep,
Awesome,
you
props.
got it." Yeah.
Do you feel like doing that in this day and age, or that's like in your past?
I've done a little bit since then, but also remember there's a 7-year statute of limitations, and so you have to have a 7-year buffer from the last one you did to be not vulnerable to being arrested. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to get arrested, but if like the political climate got really dark, and let's say Trump saw me doing all those billboards or those murals of him falling off buildings, is whatever. If he decided he wanted to mess with me, then he could say mess with them, and then they would say, "Oh shit, we have him for 6 billboards from last year. The statute of limitations hasn't run out. Nobody's going after him, but we can go after him, and that would be a legitimate way for us to put him in jail and shut him up.
Yeah.
So it's nice not to have that. It's a weird thing. Okay, like I was in high school, right? And a friend of mine, I said, "Hey, it was kind of a weird thing. Like a friend of ours, this little guy was he was getting a bit picked on in my gym class. So I said, Russ, come to my gym class. We're gonna fuck these guys up. I mean, Anyway, we kept them from picking on my friend. So he skipped his class and came to my gym class, and they were like throwing volleyballs at it. So we took the volleyball and then we threw it in the kid's face, and then we're like, do something about it. And he was kind of scared, and it says, look, if you ever mess with our friend again, we're gonna fuck you up. And he's like, yeah. And it's like, and you think you're gonna get him alone, and we're not gonna be here. But well, no. But so you leave him alone, and then we played volleyball, and the guys actually kind of chilled out, and they started playing with us, and it all turned out okay. And then I think my friend had so much fun, he came back the next day. He goes, I didn't get caught like coming to your thing. Well, he had been caught. They didn't say anything, and he came every day to my class until one day they took him in the office and they said, we can't expel you, not for skipping class or these things that you do, but we can expel you for 3 days because we have you for skipping all these days or all these hours, and when you come back, we've got you for these hours, so you're 3 more days. We're going to suspend you, and we're going to keep suspending you for 3 days because that's all we can do, and then until the school year's over. And they said, do you want to quit school? And he goes, okay, I get it, I'm out. So they got rid of him, but they got rid of him because if he would have got caught, he would have done his detention and not done it again. But because he thought he was getting away with it, and he wasn't, because they didn't like him. And so they just that was the only, he never did anything they could suspend him for. They wanted to suspend him. They wanted to suspend me too. But that's, so I've always had that in the back of my mind, thinking, what are they thinking? I'm doing billboards everywhere. I'm super aggressive. Write my name on them, I don't care. Do they know? And the only inkling I ever got is, I was at Comic-Con signing, and one guy comes up and he'd been standing in line. He goes, hey, my brother's like a cop in New York City. And I'm like, what the fuck does he think I'm doing there? Like, does he know I am? And he goes, oh yeah, he totally knows who you are. And he says, why doesn't he arrest me? And he goes, they think you're funny as shit.
That's what I thought.
They have like your pictures of your billboards all around their desk, and if the captain said go arrest them, of course they'd go arrest me. It's like but it's like if they weren't. It's not their billboards. They don't care.
Yeah.
So that was the first inkling I got that they didn't really care.
They agreed with your political messages.
They probably didn't, or probably not 100%. But you know what people always agree with is humor. And if you're funny, you get away with a lot more because you're not preachy and you're not holier than thou. You're just kind of like
making fun of their irony of life.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of fun with it, Yeah.
So tell me about a little bit of the messages that you put on these billboards. I know you make fun of corporations, of unhealthy food and cigarettes and media. Do you dislike the system? Do you want to change the system, or are you just making fun of all of it?
Originally, I wasn't leaning towards politics. So a lot of time I was just having fun with the actual billboard. So sometimes I would go take a picture of what's behind the billboard, and then I would paint it on the billboard so like there's a hole in the billboard and you can see what's behind it. So a lot of it just weird, funny stuff. And I think I was also super aware of what the ads were because I was going over them. So I only did cigarette ads because I thought, well, they got millions of ads. and I'm not really disrupting the system too much to go over their stuff, right? And then I watched them switch from, like, they had the Camel Man, and he was like an older guy in a World Adventure, and they were losing the kid market, and because they didn't relate to an older adventure guy. And so they came up with a younger version of him, and he literally meets them on the billboards. So he's doing his thing. Suddenly he meets a young guy, and they're camping together. And then the other guy gets in a speedboat, and this is all taking place on billboards. So it takes place over a long amount of time. You have to kind of be paying attention. And now this guy's got speedboats and race cars, and he's like a younger version of the original Camel Man, and still nothing. Like, the kids still weren't going for it. And because, you got to get a kid smoking when he's like 14 or 13 years old.
You gotta.
Yeah. So they switched to Joe Camel, the cartoon character. And so then I just started doing like Joe Camel, like handing little kids cigarettes, and they're throwing away their pacifier and grabbing the cigarette and stuff. So that was the first, like, really a political thing. But I also felt like they got hundreds of millions of dollars to buy ads, and there's nothing on the other side. It's just dead air. There's nobody to say maybe smoking's bad for you. There's only money to say smoking's good for you. Or I don't know. It was just a fun place to be, and I felt like justified in answering back, their ballyhoo or whatever.
Right. And then, but from then on, you became quite political, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've made fun of lots of systems, obviously. McDonald's. Like, do they ever come and be like, hey, you're insulting our beautiful corporation? Or they're not?
No.
They're not phased. They don't care.
Again, you don't get to sit in on their meetings, but
yeah.
But it is different. You have a different life if you're controversial, and a lot of people are afraid of you. And
Positive or negative?
Well, positive because you're doing good in the world. Negative because corporations are nervous of you, or they don't know you're not predictable, or they don't know what you're going to do.
So have they ever retaliated in every way, like being like a cease and desist at
Oh,
least?
yeah, some of that, yeah. But not a lot. I mean, actually more the other way, more like where you're in a room with corporate executives and they're going, we're listening and we're trying to change and we know we're doing bad things, but it's a big, crazy corporation. It's like a freight train. It's hard to turn around, but it's like, we don't want you to think that we're just these weird, myopic, uncaring drones, that we really are trying to turn the ship around, and we don't want to sell cigarettes to kids, or we don't want to make people obese, or, that we're really trying. We don't want to give kids 35 cents an hour to make our product or whatever. So, I mean, you do have an effect.
Right. So,
but I'd say like bands like Pearl Jam, you go vet the factory, you make sure they don't have any kids. So it's a lot of effort to make sure that everything is going okay. And then you hope that the fans appreciate what you're putting into that, and that that's part of the product, and that, I don't know, it's interesting.
do you feel like corporations and media in general are trying to improve, or is it just getting worse?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's all just people, and people exist inside a social system, so they feel pressure. And if you can isolate yourself away from the social pressures, then you can kind of become more egregious in your behavior because there's nobody to say, well, that's kind of messed up. But if those people are still in your lives, then you're going to try to adjust your behavior to do the right thing, kind of,
So you do feel they have a conscience,
Yeah.
or the people inside them,
And I would say it was a lot harder in the early days because maybe there weren't so many political activist artists as there are now. But I think a lot of people have integrated politics into their art, like our friend Shepard. And he's still like a huge brand. So, and I think having people like him out there as an example lets younger artists know that it's harder, but you're not going to destroy your career by being political like in the old days,
Well, it seems like now brands want to be politically correct. And
Yeah.
Sometimes I question, are they being authentic or disingenuous, or, are they doing it just to make more sales, or they actually care?
Yeah, but even if you're doing something, if you're being a nice person, like in an inauthentic way, you're still being a nice person. Like, I don't know, sometimes like in California, everybody's super nice, right? Yeah, but maybe they're not, but it's like, if you walk around being nice to everybody just as a phony, it's still like your fallback position is to do something nice
At
or
least
say
you're
something
trying.
nice. Yes, yes. And it's part of their consciousness. So, yeah.
Yeah, better to, fake it to make it, I guess,
Yeah.
So Ron, you seem like you paint like a lot. Like you got what, like 3 books now?
Yeah,
Full of paintings?
Maybe, yeah, I think more than that. But yes, yeah. I paint a lot, yeah.
Like, how do you do this? Like I go through one book and I'm like, holy shit, another crazy painting, another crazy painting. Holy fuck. That one alone just looks like it took a month to do. More. It's like, how does this guy do it? Like, do you have like lots of assistants?
Well,
Like,
I have an alarm clock
you wake up at what time?
about 5.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So,
Why? Just to paint?
well, because well, you'll find as you get older, life gets more and more complicated, and there's more demands on your time. So,
Right.
But the magic time is the world usually kicks in about 10:30 in the morning.
That's when I get up.
But a lot of people aren't doing anything up till then. So, from 5 to 10, nobody bothers you. That's your time. And then, but like at our job, everybody rolls in around 10, and maybe they chatter for a half an hour. But but by 10:30 things are happening, and it's really hard just to say I can't help you with that. I can't answer that call. I can't do that. So those 5 hours are crucial. I
So
think.
you wake up at 5 in the morning, you go straight to paint for
Yeah.
5 hours.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then once you're done, you have breakfast and you go into your office and work on business, or what's like a normal day for you?
Yeah, or make sure everybody's doing the right thing, going the right direction, that we know what the agenda is and what we're trying to accomplish. And
You direct your team.
yeah.
Do you have a couple of
Well, then I
assistants?
usually go back to paint.
Okay.
But I will get called away for different things. Like today, we came over to the PopMart and hung out for a
Yeah,
couple
thank you
hours.
so much for your time, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's so cool.
No, I'm just saying that's a magical time for painters. I think is early in the morning. And when I was younger, before I had kids, it was at night. I would stay up till 5 in the morning. So I kind of switched the schedule.
So do you paint
But
like
at night,
every day?
everything kind of stops, and then after like 10 o'clock, nobody's calling anymore, and it's just your time, and it's your quiet time, and
Do you paint every day?
yeah, mostly. I try to, yeah.
You told me in the car that you live in Beacon, New York, in the Hudson Valley for the last 15 years. So is that a better place to be a painter than, say, living in the city?
Yes.
Less distractions.
Yeah, and it's people have to make an actual effort to get to you. Although we are very much people, and that our biggest fear of moving to the Hudson Valley was being isolated. But it was here's a weird thing that happened to us. We lived in New York.
For how long?
15 years. But by the time we had 10 years in Tribeca, and it was like I had like 7,000 square foot, top floor, the roof, the lobby was all painted crazy, and we got so much press because the world press came to New York, and they would usually spend about 3 or 4 days, and we were just on everybody's list because you just go over to Ron's, he'll go do a billboard, he's got the crazy
It's a cool article.
place to interview him, and it's easy, he's right in New York. Then we moved to Jersey City. Now we're 10 minutes away from where we were before. Dead air. Nothing.
Wow.
So by the time we move to the Hudson Valley, we think that it's over. I mean, we're kind of almost semi-retiring because, my God, if we can't get people to go 10 minutes to Jersey City, they ain't coming to Beacon.
Well, I am.
And we were totally wrong. We were totally wrong.
Nice.
Everybody comes to Beacon.
Okay.
Nobody would go to Jersey 10 minutes. Fuck it, But
Wow,
I think it's, well, like in the 80s, I was an art mover, and every now and then we'd go up to Connecticut or somewhere cool, and man, we loved that. Because we lived in a canyon. We never saw the daylight. We lived with all these tall buildings, and it's like we want to see nature. So I think people like to come up here because it's very pleasant, and they make a whole day of it. So, but it was a pleasant surprise for us that suddenly now we're socially active again, and people are a part of our lives again, and they're willing to come to my studio because it's a Beacon, where they wouldn't come in Jersey City.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
And you said some other street artists have moved into the area, right?
Well, we had Tara and McPherson here for a while, which sadly this town got too expensive for them, so they had to split. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're becoming a very expensive hipster town.
Oh, damn. And
When
then
we first moved here, it was like the buildings were kind of boarded up, and I don't know, it was a little bit on the skids.
yeah, like a crack town.
Yeah, good place to get crack. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I never got into crack, so
Me
it
neither.
didn't do me any good.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so back to the painting. You paint with oils?
Yeah, I paint with oils. Yeah.
And I know from the last time I visited your house, you took us to the basement and you showed us these
Yeah.
like crazy maquettes that you actually initially made your toys just to make these maquettes that then you take a picture and then you use as a reference.
Right.
Tell me about the process of making the maquettes, and also, do you, once you take the picture, do you like project it on the canvas and then paint, or you use it just as a reference on the side?
Usually I put together the whole scene and then I take photos. Sometimes I even fog it up. And so sometimes the photos are almost identical to the paintings. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I project it and then I do almost like a photorealism thing of it. I mean, not always, but sometimes it's almost just like a photorealistic. So like I'll do weird splashes in the sets and then I recreate them photorealistically in the painting. It's a weird process. So it still has that kind of energy of like an abstract painting or something. And I try to find like a thing that nobody else is doing, so at least I have my own thing.
It's very original.
It's also very difficult, but I don't know. And I like every step of the process. And people wonder how I can just keep going and just grinding and grinding. Well, it's because I'm doing a lot of different things. So if I start getting bored with one thing, then I have another part of the process that I can go work on. Uh-huh. And I also do like a lot of music. So I have a music project called the Rabbbits with 3 Bs.
Okay.
And so we get to work on that a lot, and that's kind of like a whole different outlet.
Yeah, it stretches the brain in a different way.
Yeah.
Gives you a break from like just looking at a canvas all day.
Yeah, and you know, painting. I mean, I know people have stood in front of Guernica and cried, and I don't, whatever. I don't get that.
But you obviously love Guernica.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that there's an emotionality to music that it just doesn't. Art's kind of weirdly more intellectual than music, and music's more like here, and art's more here. So it allows me to say some more emotional things or couch things in a more emotional context. So
I think you could say very emotional things with your paintings.
yeah, maybe, but I like
Or
like
maybe
music.
you're not going at that
I feel like
dark.
there's things I can do in music that I can't do in art, and I think
Right.
they all go together. Mm-hmm. Because
Totally.
the same characters, they come to life in the songs, and now some animation, so you get to know them better.
What's the longest you spent on one painting? What do you have like the painting that's like the craziest paintings, or is that too
Yeah,
many?
maybe like 4 months. 4
Okay.
months. Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
Do you end up selling those paintings, or do they become too expensive?
Yeah, you sell them. Yeah.
So it's all worth it, or does it break your heart when you have to leave something that you invested 4 months of your time?
Well, I'm glad. I want somebody to take care of it.
Right.
I can't take care of all these paintings.
Yeah. Do you create any emotional attachment to any piece?
I think that if you feel a little nauseous and sad when you sell your paintings, then you're probably making good paintings. Mm-hmm.
Right,
If it
'cause-
really hurts you emotionally to let go of them, then. But I mean, I'm 64 years old. I've been doing this for 40 years, so.
You got too much
So
art.
one of the tricks I do is when I'm having a show, like I finish the show a few months before the show, and then I start the next show. So when the show goes up and I realize I'm never going to see these again, my attention's already somewhere else. So I don't have that, because when I just did a show and then I realized they're gone and never going to see them again, and you really don't see them again, or maybe a couple of them will pop up in some museum where you'll see them, but mostly you don't see them again, and it's weird. It's weird to give that much to something and then never it's never a part of your life again.
Right.
But I find that if you're off on another trip by the time you do that show, it's very good for you emotionally.
Yeah. I imagine it's kind of like breaking up with a girlfriend, and you just have to like kind of like prepare yourself psychologically before. Like with murals, I never have a problem just painting a mural, moving on. But that's because it's so quick.
Yeah.
But when you spend so much time, I don't know. I don't like selling my paintings, and sometimes I still have to pay bills. So
Yeah. Or like back to our friend Alex, it's like people don't realize what a miracle is that he was able to hold on to so much substantial work that he can have a space that everybody can come and experience like his over, Mm-hmm. That's really hard to do, because you always need money, and the one thing you have that everybody wants is your painting. So, but I remember him back in the day working really hard to do derivatives of paintings, anything he could do to try to preserve those masterpieces, and keep them all together and show them the way he wanted to show them,
Right. Totally. I'm happy he kept them too, because we had such a nice time the other day, and now that's there, hopefully forever, but we'll see. You know, somebody's got to keep it going.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. There's so many people that love that space, and yeah.
And I think just psychedelic culture will be more and more accepted. Like, he's pretty ballsy. He's going out there and putting like a whole museum of acid and ecstasy and things that have been illegal for so long. That, but I think it's
but you know, all the prejudice that I grew up with have dissipated, and the art world was a very prejudiced, very narrow-minded place, and it doesn't seem to be that way anymore.
The art world was narrow.
Oh God, it's like you did abstract expressionist or you did nothing, or I mean, it was very dictatorial about, like, Clement Greenberg, like, was like a dictator, you know, or
who's that?
He was the guy that was the main promoter of abstract expressionism, you know. And everything else was not supposed to exist, you know, and he was powerful enough that it didn't. Also, the CIA pumped a lot of money into that movement because you kind of have money to keep the movement alive.
Is the art world chilling out a little bit, and new movements that are kind of like weird or fringe can get more of a shot?
Name an artist, they shouldn't exist, right? Cause should not exist. The kind of art he makes was the most despicable kind of art when I was trained to be an artist in galleries. It's fan art. And it's like, I mean...
It's Mickey Mouse with a skull face.
But I remember just people getting screamed at for doing anything that resembled fan art. Or, you know, if you were going to paint, you could do critique art or critique culture, but, you know, just being into culture was not acceptable at all. Shepard Fairey should have never been in the art world, you know? I don't know. It's like most of the people that we love the most wouldn't have been allowed in the 70s art world, or do you know what I mean? So it had to loosen up a lot. And a lot of it, I think, is, you know, the collector base broadened, and they were a lot more open-minded to a lot more things, you know? And they didn't like, you know, like the narrow vision of conceptualism or abstract expressionism. And I'm not dissing abstract expressionism. That's one of my favorite movements, and I still adore it. But I'm saying it would have been hard to be in a situation where that's all you could be, you know?
I feel like the internet just kind of like gave people the choice to vote by following the artists that resonate with them, and they don't have to go through the gallery or the museums to know what's the right art to
and also having international collectors. I think China, Asia, they pumped so much money in that they gained control over what art was going to be to a large extent. You know,
I remember
because people will, you know, say that's not art until it goes up to a certain price, and then they'll capitulate and say, oh, yeah, it's art.
So does money make the art valuable, or people's love to art?
Yeah. No, I mean, even when Basquiat happened, like one critic said, look, if you gave any talented 19-year-old kid unlimited art supplies, they'd do crazy stuff. Hello? Because if you've ever been an art student, it's like one of those oil crayons that he just did that with. It'd take you 2 weeks to buy one of working at your stupid job. And then you'd be really careful with it. I remember the first time I drew on a $2 piece of paper, it freaked me the fuck out. I was scared. I didn't want to run now I paint over $1 million Banksy, but I'm just saying. But when you're young, it's like you don't have access to supplies, and they're precious, and you wouldn't treat them that way, unless that you just had a lot of money and you were, you know, and you had a lot of art supplies, you know. So I think there's a lot, you know, things that get funded are the things that grow, you know, and the things that can't make any money just die off, you know.
When
bands that don't get signed usually break up.
Okay.
Yeah.
When would you say you made it in your art career? Was it like, did Super Size Me, the movie, take you to a whole different platform of awareness, or were you already doing well by then?
I think it's a lot of things. I think a big turning point was getting an Absolute ad, because that was a kind of thing outside the art world that actually people were getting credibility from. I think Absolute created that campaign to gain credibility for this obscure vodka. And in the end, that it turned the other way, to where that people that got Absolute ads were like a light was shined on you, and that you were put in a certain category for having done that.
Okay, what year was that?
Late 80s.
Okay.
So I think that helped a lot. I mean, there's always a lot of turning points.
Yeah, it's not one thing, but
Yeah,
many things.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah.
where I found you, was through that movie,
Oh, okay.
which was quite popular.
Oh, the Super Size Me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was, and again, we used to be in a lot of documentaries, and a lot of people were making documentaries back then. And you kind of have to, almost just to run your show, you have to have a policy, right? None of these documentaries ever come, they never finish them. Everybody thinks they're making a documentary, and they never get it out. And so you kind of know that. So what is your policy? It's like, I don't really have time to be in your documentary. I love what you're trying to do, but I can't be in it. But we decided, as hard as it is to constantly be doing people's documentaries, we'll do it. You know what I mean? And so we made that decision. But normally
you're kind?
we wouldn't have been in his documentary because that's not coming out.
Yeah.
McDonald's is going to sue him. As soon as he goes to the film festivals, they're going to file a suit, and he doesn't have enough money to deal with that, and he's just going to drop it, and there's nowhere to sell it. It's just going to be a hot potato. Nobody wants it.
Right.
So but you know what? Sure, we'll do it, man. Whatever. But who knew? And that same week I was in 2 other documentaries that never came out. So, but I kind of suspected his wouldn't, but it did, and it blew up. So you never know, right?
And then there was the next movie he did, right?
Where in the world is Osama bin Laden?
Something like that. And then in that movie, he made you even more important character, where you got.
Oh, we did one about advertising too, right?
Right, where he made you like the best artist in the world or something like that.
I think my wife negotiated that. He goes, I don't have any money. Well, then just call him the best artist in the world, and that'll be our payment.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the Simpsons?
But remember, like Trump, right? He did the same thing. He goes, I'm getting a lot of gossip. I go out at night and I know stuff's happening, and I know you're page 6 and you need gossip, and I will feed you gossip. I'll tattle on my friends, but in exchange, you have to refer to me as the billionaire real estate developer.
Okay.
And they're like, well, you're not really a billionaire. It's like, in exchange for this information that you desperately need, and I'm willing to give you and throw other people under the bus to give you, you have to call me a billionaire real estate developer. And they're like, yeah, okay. So we fudge one word, whatever. We get the good stuff,
Right, totally.
So, yeah, he told them to do that, and they did it. And Michael Jackson referred to himself as the king of pop. And so
who is
first,
to judge these things, right?
well, first journalist would say, and then Michael Jackson, the self-proclaimed king of pop. Because they had to say self-proclaimed, because he was the one that called himself the king of the pop. But at some point, the paragraphs shrink, and then I don't have room to put self-proclaimed, or it seems redundant, or and once you take that off, and then boom, he's the king of pop.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know.
Well,
It's
a good strategy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll continue. I'm fine calling you the best artist in the world.
But it's all like all of my stuff is humor, so you can get away with a lot more.
You're making fun of yourself too.
If you're being funny, yeah. Like one time, back when I was talking about when our loft burned down, we didn't have a place to live anymore, so we went to stay with a friend of ours in Hoboken, and then my friend calls me up, and he'd always been, you got to go see bands. There were like all these new bands happening in the '90s, and I'm like, I can't. I got a painting show coming. I got to work. I can't. And then he called me up and says, well, you can't give me that excuse, because you don't have anywhere to paint. You don't have a studio. I know that. So let's go see some bands. And so we started going out to see bands. But again, there's something weird about me is I can't go watch football. Like in high school, I couldn't watch the football game. Like we would put on Kiss makeup, go behind the stands, and then have our own football game, like a weird surreal football game. You know what I mean? I have to do something. I can't watch somebody play something. I want to play too.
Right. You want to participate.
So I'm watching the bands, but I think, what can I do with these bands? What can I do with these bands? I got to do something with these bands. They're so cool. And then I went home, and there was a show about Saddam Hussein. He was still alive then, and they said, well, he has 110 songs about him. I thought, yeah. Well, I suppose if you're a dictator, you could hold a gun to somebody's head and they'll write a fucking cool song about it. And then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting? Because I'm almost homeless now, right? I don't have a place to live. I'm living on somebody's couch.
You got nothing to lose.
It's like, I'm like a loser artist in the East Village. It's like, wouldn't it be funny if I had more songs than the big dictator? And I just thought that'd be kind of a weird conceptual thing. And so then I started asking these bands to write songs about me. And you get weird reactions, because some of them go, oh, cool, sure. You're the guy that does Billboards. Yeah, I'll do that. And the other ones are like, man, you're an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
And I remember Michelle Shocked. I asked her, and she goes like, that's horrible, demeaning. Like having a musician make a song about you. It's like, that's gross, Ron.
So,
and I'm like, no,
arrogant.
but you asked me to do your album cover. You asked me to paint a beautiful picture of you that we could print and, you know, put it all the Tower
You
Records.
can be self-centered, but why can't I?
Or just that, isn't that the like a musician would make a song about you, an artist would make a painting of you. Like, what's the difference?
Right.
Like, I'm asking you to do your practice for me, or I'll do my practice for you. And
Right. Well, I'm using your magic to like.
yeah.
To
But anyway,
lighten
but
you
it was
up.
an interesting experience because, you know, the way people took it, and, you know, a lot of people realized it was funny. But I did beat Saddam, and I had the most. I was the living person with the most songs about him. I think I may still be.
You met Saddam Hussein?
No, I
you
beat
bet
his
him.
record. I beat his record. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
course, I
That's
could've-
like-
I
and
could've-
eventually I was presented to Saddam Hussein. I was like, I beat you at this.
Yeah. Then
So
he- then
you
he-
have more than 100 songs written about you?
Like I think 130.
Oh my
Because he only
goodness.
had 110, so I had to make sure I had a little buffer room.
Are they good songs?
Oh yeah, great songs. And like Tripping Daisy and Sarah Hickman and like amazing people. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I gotta go and look and.
Yeah, most
and-
musicians are actually quite fun-loving, and a couple of them, like the Gefkins, said that was like the best song we ever did. And it's because we were kind of challenged to go outside ourselves and do something like different. I think they couldn't figure out why it was, but it was, you know.
So what about being on The Simpsons? Like for me, like to be on The Simpsons as a character would be like the biggest dream in the world. Like probably everybody saw that on the street art episode. Was that something that made you happy, or is just like another thing for you?
Oh, I mean, that was a lot of fun. I was super into The Simpsons. I mean, I was super into The Simpsons. Like when we lived on Zabriskie Street, it's like actually the whole family had to shut up and let Dad watch The Simpsons, and then they could scream and jump around.
It was
again,
the
you know?
best when it came out
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
But yeah, I think that you think, wow, that's kind of like I was me on The Simpsons. But I had met Matt before, and he invited us out to his house one time, and
He's from around here, right?
L.A. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know where he's originally from. No, but I remember he was into street art, and he was he liked that culture, and he actually came with me when I was doing street art. I mean, he didn't like get up on the billboard or anything, but he'd sit in the car and watch us do it. And
That's so cool.
so, yeah, and sometimes you got to remind yourself, like, who is he? Well, he's an underground comic book artist,
Right.
Who's super into outsider weird music and stuff. So really, there's no difference between me and him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's madly successful, but his artistic soul is still the same as it ever was, you know.
Yeah, he's just another freaky nerdy artist that
Yeah,
got
yeah.
lucky, and now The Simpsons is still running. I think. I don't think they're ever gonna end that show.
Yeah, well, they kind of replenished with new writers, and also they've like we got to hang out with Yardley like up in Michigan one weekend, and she was like, well, one of the reasons the show keeps going is because we protect the characters. So like a lot of times new writers come in and like, oh, here's a funny thing for Lisa to say, but I protect Lisa because she always has to be the same person. And yes, that's a great joke and it's a big laugh, but we're not going to sacrifice who she is for a laugh. And and because I think the actors got a vested interest in the characters and keeping them real and not, you know, sometimes you have to lose a great joke to keep them pure in who they are, you know, and that's how you make something last, or that's one of the ways you make something last.
Totally.
I think making them yellow was pure genius because everything popped and looked cool, and I mean a lot of things kind of played into that.
And
you
it's
know?
not a particular race, you know.
Yes,
It's very-
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
Like,
they're yellow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or just like your character is like that.
Yeah.
At least a smiley face.
And
guy.
I think that I forgot who decided that, but it was a woman that was like the designer or something. She goes, we'll just make them yellow because it'll pop. Like
Right.
you put them on a purple background, it looks really cool. You
Yellow's
know?
my favorite color.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so happy.
Oh shit! The Rabbbits. You got to check out our song "Yellow."
Okay.
Yeah. It
Nice.
was, yeah.
Okay.
We just been doing singles. So like one of the most recent singles is called "Yellow."
Okay.
I'm not afraid of the color yellow.
Is it on Spotify?
It's on Spotify. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
I'll
Apple
check it
and
out.
everything.
Paulina will make a note.
But
from-
you got it. It's 3 B's. 3
Three
B's.
Bs.
You got to miss spell it because he wants to take you to this
Rabbit.
other band called the Rabbbits who can't figure out why they're selling so many records in the last few years.
Oh, it's all because of you.
Because they were kind of a dormant band. And,
Okay.
And they're like, damn, what happened?
Yeah.
Nothing happened, no worries.
I hope you're better than them.
My friend was like a prankster, so he knew all these bands came to New York and they played a little club, and it was like you just wanted to go to New York and play a club, and you weren't even gonna have if you had an audience of 3 people, like, yay, because nobody knows you, right? And so he found one of these bands online, and oh yeah, we're going to New York, so he got like a couple hundred people, and they learned all their songs. And so like the band comes in and starts playing, there's somebody there. The whole place just fills up with 200 people. It's a tiny little room about the size of this. They all sing along to every song, going crazy. And just halfway through the last song, they all leave. And those poor guys did not know what the fuck happened. They're like, how the fuck did they know who we were? How could they sing along with every song? Or how did we get through to them? And they were so happy. And then somebody finally said, oh, this guy, Charlie, the prankster, he set you up. And then they were super depressed. But anyway, but wild thing, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you got that musical side. Talking about being the best artist in the world, I remember when you came to Montreal 2017 and you painted a beautiful mural for Mural Festival. And then you came over to my apartment. We had some Asian dinner in my rooftop and we drank some wine. And you were telling me that you're about to go to China because you had somehow convinced them that you were the best artist in the world, and they kind of like went for it, and then they're building you these like giant sculptures and stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
We've been touring China for 15 years, but the first tour is like nobody, nothing was happening, and then at some point now it's like insane. But no, I mean, it's like the first tour, we were just meeting with some press people and they go like, are you the biggest artist in America? And I'm thinking, what? No, but I thought, fuck it, I'll say, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, because also I thought, shit, they want you to be, because you came to their town.
Right.
They want you to be that, you know? So I thought, what's it hurt, So anyway, so I lied.
It's okay. Now I wish I would have lied to you earlier today when you asked me like, you're number 2 after Alex Gray, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know, like, I'm up there. I should have been like, fuck yeah, I'm number 2, yeah.
And then you wouldn't be you, so, And you probably got to be number 2 by people actually liking you,
Arts, the whole ranking of things, you got a flavor and it might resonate with some, it might not resonate
I hate to
with
fall
others.
into it, but it is, like people outside the art world want to know who's the best artist. It's like, how the fuck would I know? I don't know. But there's no ranking system for art. There's only even a couple of awards for art. So I think people just want to know who's the best. Like, in Hollywood, it's the one that got an Oscar. In music, it's the one that got a Grammy. In sports, it's the guy that got the ball through the hoop or won the playoffs. Who is it in art? How do you know? And it's like, well, maybe that's the fun of art is you don't know.
Because the whole world's so competitive and competition kind of like ruins it. And I wish the art world wasn't competitive, and it still is.
Yeah. But I can recognize artists, even if you don't like them. Well, first off, there's probably not a lot of artists that are trying to get over. I mean, that's not really a thing. They're doing their thing. They're doing what they want to see and what they want to have happen in the art world. And maybe there's a couple trying to get over, or trying to figure that's what everybody likes, I'll do that. But for the most part, they're not trying to get over. So they're actually, you have to look at it from the point of view as they're sincere and they're developed their practice and they think about it every day for their whole lives. And whatever they arrive at, that's a special thing. And it's, even if you don't 100% feel it, you got to understand. It's like if you don't like Miles Davis, you can't say you can't play the trumpet. Maybe I like different kind of music, but you have to acknowledge that he was good.
Right. Like, even if you're not into somebody's art, you can still appreciate it.
But you can realize that's the real thing. That's somebody who's dedicated their life to this. They've gotten to a level that they've embedded their personality into their art, and they're the real thing,
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about China. You've been many times. They really appreciate you.
I think I work with M.D. Young, who's... he used to do boy bands, New Kids on the Block. So he sees things from a different perspective.
What's his role with you?
Well, it's more like he plays it like showbiz.
Okay.
So
is he your manager or your hype man?
Well, he owns the toy factories, so we design all the toys. We design the clothes line, or the clothing line, but I think he's just, I like him because he's like a visionary. He's not doing somebody else's thing. He's not following the traditional path. He's created his own path, and he knows what he's doing, And so, he thinks everything needs to be big. You go from town to town. He knows how to play the press. Like, we got in trouble like one time, and it's kind of like we can either be in the international news or we can go to prison, or like we have to play this exactly right because we don't want to get kicked out of China.
How did you almost get in trouble?
Well, we did like a giant MC in the middle of town or whatever, and it was, it was creating controversy, and kind of, it's more authoritarian. So like, they said, no, that's, McDonald's doesn't want that there, and you can't use their character, and And then we got our copyright lawyer on the phone, and she's facting over, like, no, this is our character. We actually own the copyright. That's not Ronald McDonald. That's MC Supersized. It's a different character. And so we got cleared of that. And then they said, oh, you're doing something else wrong. And at some point you realize either we were only in that town for 3 days, so we either like pull it 2 days early, but everybody that's seen it has already seen it, and then we're going to take it to the next town. But you know, right now we had the international press waiting to talk to us, like, because the Hong Kong news was like on us. But they were funny. They set a lawyer next to me, and they said you can talk to them at 10 till 5 or whatever their deadline was, and you got one round. You get no second questions. You don't get a callback question, and so we were able to kind of like create international controversy without kind of pushing anything too far, because they would like to push things farther to sell more papers or whatever, and they really don't have your best interest at heart. So it was a very tricky tightrope to walk. And then when you realize I have a team that they know what the law is, they know what the Chinese law is, they know everything, and they know to not give them a second round of questions, and it's like you either run it or you don't, and you have to be able to say, I don't care, just let it go. You have to be able to walk away from any deal.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just stuff like that, or just realizing, and you don't think about it because you think, yeah, I'm not that famous, and it's like one time they had like 10 bodyguards. It's like, I don't need 10 bodyguards. And it's like, and I thought, oh, I see, it's show business. And then at some point you realize, oh fuck, it's not show business. It's like I need 10 bodyguards. It's like, because he creates this huge crowd, and then they don't know how to act because it's just too many people, and they get more and more psychotic the more people you get.
But even the fact that you got 10 bodyguards probably creates the hype.
It kind of does, but it also, you realize that once you get a lot of people, and when you hit a critical mass of people, they become very dangerous, So I don't know, just being with somebody that really understands all that stuff. I mean, who does? You know what I mean?
Totally. So I want to ask you, you make these characters that are based on previous existing things, and you said that NC Supersized is copyrighted. Do you have to go and copyright all of your characters that come from something previous?
Most characters that exist in the world are derivative of something before them. So, Fred Flintstone is Ralph Cramden of the Honeymooners as a K-Man. And as a matter of fact, they said, give us the Honeymooners as K people, or so everything is brought from something else.
Culture builds on culture.
Yes, yeah. But yes, we do copyright everything, and your main things you want to trademark. So the most recent trademark is Area 54. So I did a couple things for Crocs, and I wanted to do like an alien theme. And I said, well, let's call it Area 54. So because it's
like Studio 54.
Like Studio 54 and Area 51 put together, right? So
it's like a disco alien
but then
thing?
we realized nobody had that combination. So immediately but if you copyright, and then also if you trademark it, it's way more intense to be a trademark than a copyright.
What's the difference?
Different laws apply, right?
Is it more expensive?
Yeah, well, we do. It does take a lot. I think our trademark, our main mark is the grin. Like getting the grin official in China was really hard, because initially they were kind of like, well, it's against Chinese culture or blah blah blah. And so it took years and lots of money to and a lot of explaining. But now it's one of the most popular symbols in China. But I mean, it's. I don't talk a lot about the legal sides of things because I don't think people are that interested, and it's kind of arduous. I don't know if you remember Lenny Bruce. At the end of his life, that's all he could talk about is his legal battles. And like at some point, people aren't like, make us laugh. Come on, man,
Yeah.
So I don't think that people are that interested, and I try not to delve too deep in it, even in private with other artists, because I still think that, I have a lot of opinions and I do know a lot about it, but I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want anybody to walk away thinking I just gave them legal advice or.
Do you ever have artists bite you, and do you care, or?
Yeah, artists do all the time. I mean, it's something you don't think about when you're younger, but if you make something that becomes famous, people are going to play with it,
So it makes you happy, or do you need
it's
to
something
defend it a
it's
little
something
bit?
that didn't occur to me. Like when I first started making the fake products and putting them in stores, I mean, I didn't think, I'm going to do this, and then a lot of people are going to do it, and it's going to become a thing, So Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what people do.
Right. So tell me about toys then. This is like a newer, I know it's not like brand new, but like
Yeah, I
perhaps
think our
compared to your
culture's been
paintings.
around 20 years by now, maybe.
Okay. And how long have you been in the vinyl toy
Almost
collector
since
scene?
it started.
Okay.
It started with like Michael Lau, Eric So. I think like Michael, well, they did the rotocasting kind of technique, and sometimes it's for the softer parts of like a hard plastic toy, and sometimes they were using it to like kind of prototype something. So imagine if we're all executives at Mattel, and it costs $80,000 to produce like just one of a hard plastic toy with the injection molding and everything, and then you show it to all the executives, and you say the tail should go this way, and I say no, the tail should go that way. Well, we just lost $80,000. But so they came up with a cheaper way to do it, so that when we're not losing so much money when I think the tail should go this way and you think it should go that way or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, but it also created a situation where I think he looked at it as like, you got your bronze sculptures and editions of 10 or 20, and then you got your G.I. Joes or whatever, but there's nothing like in the middle, for young collectors. But I could do an edition of 1,000 or maybe with a colorway of 100, but I don't have to spend 80 grand to do injection molding and make the toy. Now it's more cost effective for me to do, and I can just make 1,000, sell it to my fans, and then it's worth more money because it's actually a limited edition. It's not an edition of 10, but it's still small enough that it retains its value. And
So do brands make your toys? Do you make your own toys? Is it both?
well, it's interesting because I was very rebellious and all this stuff, but now everything I do is with big brands, and it's kind of, as you grow older, it's kind of weird because like everybody's younger than you, and they've known about you their whole lives. And yeah, they work at Disney or they work at, but they're in charge now. So they like it, and they want the Warner Brothers characters to have grins or so now we do like everything's kind of brand collabs and stuff, and
Okay, so now it's legit. It's not like
we're kind of weirdly legit, but. But I don't think you want to be a rebel your whole life. You want to change the culture enough that
it becomes the culture.
That it becomes the culture. Yeah. So.
What would so if somebody came and reinvented the culture that now you've become part of, how would they turn that on its head? I guess we don't know because it hasn't happened yet. But
No.
But that'd be interesting. Somebody remixing your stuff to the next level of weirdness. As you remixed their culture before you.
Well, things are going to get super interesting, because of AI and because of the things that, I don't know. I would like to, I've been rewriting the Bible, like in my own vocabulary and my own kind of take on things.
You've been rewriting the Bible in your own vocabulary.
But I mean, it's something that was going to take me the rest of my life.
Like the New Testament, the Old Testament?
No, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Right, but I mean, it was just sort of one of those things that it was going to take me the rest of my life, and now it's becoming possible that I can scan the last 40 years of my writing, and you can input it, and you can take, don't even bother with the King James, because King James kind of did what I'm talking about doing, is taking the original text, and translating them, and then changing them to suit, my political beliefs and stuff. And so I could take original text, put them through a translation program, and then scan in all my writing. So now the AI understands like my sense of humor, my politics, and it can understand who I am, and then it can rewrite the whole Bible like without me having to do the whole thing.
Wow.
So
well, that's an advantage.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
And then I'll call it the English translation of the Bible. So, yeah.
What about the Dead Sea Scrolls? Are you throwing that in the mix?
But yeah, it'll become easy. But then anybody will be able to do it. Anybody will scan in all their life's work and then have it come out,
Does that take a little bit of the fun out of it, doing it yourself? Or you've done enough and like, let's let AI just finish it off. Save me some time.
I don't know if anybody's ever resisted,
having assistance of any
or
kind?
just resist the culture and won, I mean, I remember a guy that was a pretty prominent artist in the 80s, and he didn't want a cell phone, never heard from him again. He's just gone. I think people have to kind of accept that this is happening and you can't stop it.
Right.
So you either roll with it or you just let it roll over you,
do you think the culture, it will evolve, but do you think the culture will become better or just, or worse? I guess that's like a matter of opinion once again. Like, you don't have to fear it. You fear parking tickets, but do you fear what AI could do to art, remove any kind of soul from it or humanity?
I think it'll just accelerate things. I think a lot of people will think they're artists that may not necessarily be art, but it also defines what we are. Like, the one thing I got out of it so far is, I've tried like Chat GPT or whatever, and I can't make it write anything interesting. But it kind of fires my brain up. So like, I keep writing interesting stuff because I realize this is what I want you to write it, and it won't do it. And then I use the Midjourney, and it's like, this is what I want you to make it. It won't fucking make it. But then you think, yeah, but I saw it in my mind, and I could, I'm more stimulated. And then, I don't know, I find it's hard to explain, but yeah, I've been trying to keep up and be my own AI for the last couple of years. So like, we did the Light Cult Crypto Club, we did 20,000 PFPs, right?
20,000?
Yeah.
That's your collection?
So what we were doing is, so we do like 10 colorways of each one, or I think maybe 8 colorways, but it still made me have to make 5,000 unique works of art.
Uh-huh.
So in a way, I'm an AI, and I'm just thinking every day I'd go to bed and go think, I can't do this anymore. I got no more ideas. Next day, head fills right back up with ideas.
Yeah, that's great, man.
But the weird thing that I've noticed is it's weirdly dumb, and it can only take what's been done before. And it can't invent. It cannot invent. It's just like, here's this ocean of things, and it can't rise above the ocean. And then you realize that's what we do. And that's why we are who we are, because we rise above, the sea level. And everything else is just in, like, AA writes like a 7th grader, or do you know what I mean? Because it takes Shakespeare, but it just takes what he does and remixes it, which isn't really what he did. He was original, and he came up with original stuff. It can't originate. It can only just remix.
Right.
It's really interesting though, but it's like it was really healthy for me to interface with it on such a deep level that I want to know exactly what it is, and it also makes you understand who you are. You realize, oh fuck, it can't do me, and it makes you feel better about yourself. You feel like
it will eventually.
No.
No?
I don't think it will.
You don't think it'll ever be able to replicate us exactly?
It's still a machine, and it can still only take what's been there before. It can't create. Maybe it can. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't even tried Midjourney
It's
yet.
happening fast, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're also like a part of a lawsuit, and so
you're suing them, or they're suing you?
Well, there's a bunch of artists got together and just like, you can't use our names as prompts, or if you use our names as prompts, we have to get compensated. So it's like a licensing deal. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you want to throw my name in and give me a millionth of a penny or whatever, but I don't know. But we didn't know which way to go on all that stuff. But we thought at least we want to, be a part of that.
Protect your style to some degree, because if anybody just be like, hey, make me a Ron English poster, and then it's like, all right.
But if you embed it now, and it will be too late later because it'll kind of become settled law. But right now is the time to embed like our rights as artists in this new technology.
So
in a year it'll be too late.
Your suing situation, I don't know enough about those things, but is that just for you and your artist friends, or for all artists?
It was a lawsuit created by other artists, and then you can sign on to the lawsuit, so you're part of it. It's kind of like if you were at the World Trade Center and you got cancer, and then a lawyer puts together the suit.
Okay.
And then everybody, you can join the suit and you get part of the settlement.
Is there like a web page that one can go and sign your name to be like, hey, I also want my name protected?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to answer that question.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. I'll ask you later.
Or ask the Tarsa.
I'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah,
how can I sue you, ChatGPT?
Well, ChatGPT is not very smart.
No?
Yeah,
I asked him like, hey, who's Chris Dyer? And he's like, Chris Dyer was born in Peru in 1976. It's like, I was born in Canada on 79. You don't need to know this shit's on my fucking webpage on Wikipedia. Look it up, dude. It's like, come on.
It's not a dude. It's a machine.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, it doesn't know I write songs.
No?
It has no idea. Yeah.
Ignorant fool.
Yeah.
So last time I saw you in New York, in the city, 2021, you were doing an NFT launch at Super Chief Gallery.
Oh yeah. That was actually still during the pandemic.
That was like right as I was ending
Yeah, you were coming back from Mexico, right?
from Peru.
Peru. Okay.
Yeah, it was my first stop of a tour that I did like 5 months, just jumping around painting murals and stuff. But was visiting some friends, and you were launching a NFT, and I believe you did pretty good with NFTs.
Yeah, we did great.
Tell me a little bit about it.
I think a lot of people did really well for a while, and then I think the pandemic kind of fed into it because a lot of people are trapped at home and getting free money from the government and looking for something to do with it. And usually there's a lot of investment in new technology, but I don't think it's really going to become what it's going to become for a while now.
Do you think it could come back, or it just had its moment?
It's like an internal monetary system, and I think as more, there's a metaverse built, or there's places, online to have, own, show this stuff, then it becomes more viable. But it was kind of like everybody was building Corvettes, but there weren't roads yet, So it was just like, look, I have a Corvette. It's like, yes, that's cool. Well, you know what? It's going to be a lot cooler when they build roads.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build more, like expand more into, building immersive type of things, and then it's going to become very valuable because, like, as of now, like being a member of the Light Cult Crypto Club, I think it originally cost $300. Well, you've already received more than $300 of the prints and toys and access to special events, and so it's valuable if you use it.
Right.
Yeah.
You said you had a collection yourself of 20,000 NFTs?
The Light Cult Crypto Club is 20,000. Yeah.
Okay, is that your collection?
That's you met my son earlier. Yeah, he put that together, and the way he treats it is that's our club.
Okay.
That's our secret club. And
okay.
So that's our all access. It's an all access pass to everything we do. And if you want to burn it, like I think every couple months he puts out a print, or he puts out a toy or something, but like a hand painted toy. So whatever the value of what he puts out is more than the value of the original NFT to begin with. Just so people feel like, I don't want to be in this game anymore. I want out. I don't want a real object because I don't like this world. So.
But
I mean, his main
you
thing is to
burn
make,
the NFT, or you just sell it on secondary?
No, you destroy it.
Really?
You destroy it, and then we give you something in its place.
Wow.
So that way, because it was kind of like, we want to, this is a new thing, and if you feel like it's not working out for you, or the whole way through, that you knew that you could get a print at some point or something, that we would do this up to like a year and a half or whatever. Well, that way, that nobody feels like, I took this chance, and I.
And you did.
But he told me that there's a way out, and he gave us a way out, and or maybe we want to hold it and hope they get to really build the metaverse or do all these things, and then we'll be these VIPs in that, and we'll be legacy people in his world, and so I mean, our main thing is. I don't know. We want to make everybody happy. I became an artist to make people happy, and it's like, I don't want anybody to feel like something went afoul or
something.
I'm not out to trick people. I'm out to give them a good time.
That's great. I didn't know you could make an NFT that once it was minted, it could be burnt. I thought like it could be burnt if it didn't get minted.
No, it can be burnt. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it's all about the smart contract.
Yeah, I think. And it's also, you get when people flip your stuff, that you get paid.
Okay, but so it's also flippable.
Where with the paintings you don't. So sometimes people go, "Oh, fuck, you sold a painting for $1 million." And it's like, no, I didn't. No, somebody that bought a painting for $20,000, and by the way, I got $10,000 for that, and so now it's sold for $1 million, but I didn't see a cent of that.
Right.
And I was the one that worked so hard to promote all the stuff for all these years, but I don't get to benefit from it.
Right.
But with the NFTs, you actually do. So you get a taste every time it changes hands.
Right.
Which is, I think, very attractive to artists,
Yeah. I got a collection too. It's only 5,555. And we do make 5%, but I have a whole team, and I just let the team, keep that and keep the project running, and the Discord. So I imagine you got a Discord and all the NFT Twitter spaces and stuff.
Yeah, it's good for a community, and I think it's going to be really good for musicians to sell tickets and give all access passes and create other levels of interaction with their fans. And it's a good thing. Yeah. And like, I still have something coming up in a couple of weeks with Vivi. Like, they're still really doing well, and they're
ED? What's that?
Vivi. They're a digital collectible, but they have already solved the problem of the carbon footprint. So
doesn't take any
they don't eat
gas.
up any electricity. You just had to reduce you don't need 1 million computers to legitimize a transaction. That's way too redundant.
Right.
You know.
But that's improving in general. I think Ethereum doesn't take that much anymore.
Yeah.
So I was so relieved.
But, you know, that was kind of part of our, you know, again, you were saying, do these companies, what do they think about you? Or, you know, well, sometimes now that you work with them, you know, you say, well, I'll do a drop with you, but not until you solve this carbon footprint problem. And other artists say it, and then they're like, well, we want these artists, and they actually do capitulate and make that part of their agenda to do that, you know, and it's and the reason their fans like them is because they know that they're paying attention to this stuff. Yeah, they're ethical. Yeah, so yeah, we'll do the 3 Monkeys with them, and then we'll throw a party with them for Comic-Con in the fall. So yeah, they're still very viable in it. You know, and they're building their own metaverse so that there'll be places to play with your toys and I don't know. The way I look at it is, I'm a stamp collector. I'm 12 years old. I live in Decatur, Illinois. I won't even meet another stamp collector. The town's too small. It's, you know. But now if I'm a stamp collector, it's like I can find other people that are into it, that are obsessed with it, and maybe they live in Hong Kong. You know, maybe live in Indonesia. But it's like, but we have our little club, and we don't have to be in the same town anymore.
Right.
And especially if you're in something very nichey, it's hard to find other people into it. But now it's not. Now you can build your community globally, and you don't have to hope that there's one other nerd in your town that you can interface with, you know?
Right. Are you really a stamp collector?
No.
Okay. But not that that's bad.
No, but
I
I'm just
would
saying,
be surprised.
I saw stamp collectors, and I realized there's nobody for you to talk to. There's nobody that's going to look at your stamp collection and go, oh, dude.
My dad
But
was
there's
a
a guy like, you know, in the next state over, but it's like you're not going to meet him. It's going to be too hard, you know? But now it's easy. Now you can indulge your, you know, weird passions, you know?
Right. In my NFT community, they're from all over the world, and they talk to each other on Discord every day, and they got similar psychedelic perspectives, and they found their tribe.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a positive thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And then I try to show up in person, and we all have dinner together and vibe. I like in-person things, you know?
Yeah. But that was my first experience with the internet, because I remember, like, they were going, there's a new thing called the internet. This is like CBS News or whatever, like they know anything. It's just going to isolate people. It's going to tear people apart. And then, well, I don't know anything about it. So the first time I ever went on the internet, my friend, oh, there's this thing called the internet. You want to check it out? Like, yeah. And I was with Clark. You know Clark. Yeah.
Who's Clark?
Yeah, sorry. He's an older artist, but he's like, let's look at porn. Like, okay, I want to see graffiti. I'm obsessed with graffiti. And so we tried to look at porn. I think it loaded really slow. And I said, come on, let's look at graffiti. And
Give me a nipple.
anyway, so we went on, and there was a big site called Art Crimes run by a woman named Susan Farrell, and there wasn't even New York graffiti. The internet was just too new, and so he goes,
What year is this?
I can't. It's like 91 or something. I can't remember. But he goes, hey, you can email her, and so like, well, let's email her, and I said, well, I do billboards. I don't really do traditional. I do more like the street art or something different. It's not traditional graffiti. But maybe you could put up a couple of my things. And she goes, oh, well, yeah, I love your stuff. I'll do you a site. And she did my first site, you know? And then she, but anyway, back to the isolation thing. Then she says, well, I'm coming to New York because I want there to be New York graffiti on my site, you know, because she was obsessed with graffiti. She's like, would it be cool if I stayed at your house for a week? And I'm like, fuck yeah. And then she stayed with us for a week. And then she goes, now I'm going to go to Europe. And I have all these places to stay, and all these people are going to drive me around to photograph all the graffiti and stuff. And like, how do you know all these people? From the internet. So this thing that's going to isolate us all opened up the whole world to you.
Right.
You should call CBS News and tell them you got it all wrong, baby.
Wow,
Yeah.
the news,
So,
you know.
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's ways to build communities, and communities of more like-minded people, and, you know, humans want to be a part of a tribe.
Right.
You know, and it's nice now that, like, you don't have to capitulate to some small town tribe that doesn't think that you should even wear white clothes. You can only wear a black shirt with jeans, you know, or whatever. I mean, I came from that.
Right.
And they give me grief for wearing all white one timer. You think, I don't want to be with
In
you
New
people.
York, you can't use white, right?
I want to be with my tribe, and you ain't it. But if I can't, you know, if you're stuck in a small town, then you have to capitulate to your tribe, and
Right.
you may not dig anything about them. But now you can find your own tribe, and you can build it globally. You know? Yeah.
So you're optimistic about technology in general. Are you optimistic about
I'm
the
90%
direction of the world?
I'm 90% optimistic.
That's huge. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And what about the world with all its divisions and problems, do you think we can make it through and, solve all of our collective issues?
I mean, we got a plague, or a virus or something that happens about every 100 years. And I'd say we solved the problem rather quickly. I know it was a huge thing, but the one that came before took a lot longer to wind its way through the system. And so, I mean, there's a lot of craziness, but, science is very advanced, and we got our shit together more than you realize, And we're a lot more redundant than you realize. And we survived, our country survived a completely insane, self-serving, mafia-style president, that literally tried to overthrow the government and become a dictator.
Okay.
And he also flipped half the country out into like they're in some weird cult. And we survived that. So I don't know. We're more resilient than you think.
Yeah, I don't believe in any politicians, and I don't know if it can be solved through politics. So yeah.
Well, politics is the way we do things collectively. The point of a government is, well, you can build a road and I can build a road, but if we all got together and built the same road, it'd be twice as good, right? You see what I mean? Like, there's things we can only do together, and that's the system we built so that we can cooperate and do things together. And humanity's like amazing when they cooperate.
Yeah.
And they're horrible when they don't.
Right. Let's keep on collaborating and creating a beautiful world. So right now you got a show in New York, right?
Yes, Alouche Gallery in Soho. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be up for a couple more weeks. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to the city later tonight. Maybe I'll have time to visit it tomorrow morning before my flight.
You should. Yeah.
Yeah.
What time's your flight?
I think it's like 2-ish.
Oh yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. You're JFK.
New York.
Newark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy to get to.
Okay.
Downtown. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess that you don't know the hours of the gallery, I imagine.
They'll be open probably from 11 till whatever. You can check online.
Okay, cool. I'll
but
check.
I actually did build one of the installations in the gallery, and then next to it I did the painting the diorama I used to create the paintings, so I put them together. So I've never done that before.
Okay.
Because I've never showed people my process, so this is the first time I've ever showed the
Okay,
process.
so you brought in some of your dioramas from your basement.
Yeah, or just one with one painting, just so you get this is like what he's doing, just in case you're curious.
Yeah, but you don't sell it.
I mean, I would sell it if somebody wanted to buy it. I just think that the people are used to buying paintings. I don't know what you would do with a diorama.
I don't know, maybe there's some rich people with big tables and they just want a really cool psychedelic diorama. Like, what do you do with them once you're done with the painting? Do you destroy them?
I'm kind of doing the same thing that our friend Alex is doing. I'm building sets. I'm putting them in a warehouse. I'm building more, making the paintings. But I'm trying to keep the whole thing. And at some point, I'll put the whole thing together as one giant Delusionville installation.
Wow.
And I'm trying not to do it, I don't know. I'd like to do the whole thing in my own, like build my own building and do it in my own space, because it's so complex that I don't know if I really want to do it for 3 months in a museum and then move it, have to tear the whole thing down again, or I don't know.
Sounds complicated.
I mean, I might do it, but right now my goal is to do it all on my own and build it my own way, and it would be like you'd have to almost know me to come see it, or you know what I mean. I don't think I'd make it public.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't do a public
I
museum?
don't know. I haven't really figured that out yet, but I think it's kind of. As I get older, I'm getting more interested in the idea of the exclusivity and that you really have to know me to be able to see this other dimension. You know what I mean?
Or be part of the community club.
Well, I think those guys are grandfathered in, so they'll be part of it. And we've thrown events just for them. So.
And if you were to create this Delusionville Museum of Ron English weirdness, where would it be? Here in Beacon, or the city's probably too expensive, right?
Well, but we own property here, so we could do it here, or we could just move a little farther out and think the price drops as soon as you get away from the city. So,
but you still have to.
But I like what Alex did. That's the perfect thing.
Right.
And also, I mean, his audience is more curated than you realize, because you're not going to go there and some frat boy's going to be, chugging a 40 and acting like an idiot. It's like everybody there is going to be really cool and worth knowing. And do you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, he's built a community and everybody's artistic and smart and beautiful, and
they're hip to the jive.
Yeah.
No
I know they work really hard on that, but it's a curated experience,
Totally. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our discussion. I don't want to take any more of your time, but it's been really lovely. Would you have any like final words of wisdom to the different artists that tune into this show?
Oh, you have a lot of artists?
It's mostly artists, yeah,
Okay.
because artists want to learn about artists and get inspired, and then go out there and try to make it. And
Well, I got my life advice from Ted Nugent.
all
Now,
right.
I was a kid, and I really liked him, and I went to see one of his concerts, and I hung around afterwards, until he came out. I had hair to my waist, and so I think maybe he taught, I don't know, I looked like him. But, and I don't know if
He's
I
intense looking.
He's a weird dude. But, I mean, later I didn't agree with his politics or anything, but I said, man, I'm just a young artist, and I don't know any other artists. I don't know anything. I still don't know what to do. And it's like, and he's just like a cocky dude anyway. He goes, you just do what you do till they like it. But I thought, wow, that's it.
Just do what
it.
you got to do till
No,
they
just
like
do what you do until they like it. But I took it to mean, like, don't try to jump on a trend. Don't try to do what you think people want you to do. You just do your thing, and doggedly do your thing, and that you will find people that like it and come to you, and you'll find opportunities, or they'll find you, and then in the long run, it's your art, it's your vision, and you never sold out. You always just did what you wanted to do, and you waited for them to come to you. And sometimes it's faster just to do what people want. And most of the people I've known that capitulated and did what people want didn't have very long careers. So
yeah, because
'cause it's not-
originality
or
and-
just they're not into it. They can't sustain it just because they don't like what they're doing. It's really not their art.
right. Yeah, being authentic is like the most important thing in art to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
Technique
also, you can sustain it if you're authentic because you believe in it. It's really you.
Totally. Well, thank you for being
Oh,
you.
thank you.
You're
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah,
You're a
you
great
are too.
artist,
Yeah,
a beautiful
yeah.
person.
Thanks.
Woo! And thank you guys for tuning to another week of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those boring things you don't want to do. But we want these talks to reach more people. So I thank you, and I'll see you next week. Blessings! Yo! All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much,
Well,
Ron.
I'm proud of you for having like a show and sticking with it. It's so much work, right?
I love it. It's so
that's good.
fun.
Yeah.
Next episode, Patty Davis.
I think that creativity is so important. Creativity is taking an intimate piece of yourself, and just like you said, telling people you're psychic. It's a vulnerable thing. It's taking an intimate piece of yourself and putting it out in the world. And for you, you're putting it out in a way that people can judge that. But it's also it has so much healing to it. I can go to a museum and see a painting and just feel my energy field shift, or I can feel it in a specific chakra.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.